Over the past several videos, we've learned about several ways that we can take input from the user. Now, let's learn how to make our forms look a little bit nicer with some formatting. So here we have a web form, and there's very little formatting here. We have some headline tags, but that's about it. There's an input for some text, there's a text area, we have some checkboxes, and we have some radio buttons. And basically, this is just a survey about food. So we'll go ahead and switch over to our text editor, and let's see if we can't add some formatting. The first element we're going to learn about is called the label element. And to use label, we'll go ahead and type out label, just like that, and we'll close our label tag. We'll say, what's your first name? And that will be for our input of type text. And to associate this label tag with the input, we need to set an ID on our input. And we'll set it to a value of first name. Then on the label, we need to use a for attribute, and the for attribute's value needs to be the same as the value of the ID for the element that you're associating it with. So we'll say first name, just like that. And so when we switch back to the browser and refresh, you can see that we now have the text, what's your first name, next to our input element. And when we click on that text, it will actually shift the browser's focus to the input, just like that. So let's go ahead and add a label to our text area. So we'll switch back to our text editor. We'll create another label, and we'll say that this is for bio, and we'll say, tell us about yourself. And then on the text area, to associate it with our label, we'll give it the ID of bio, just like the for attribute on the label. So when we switch back and refresh, you can see that we now have a label for our text area, and when we click on it, it will gain the browser's focus. So once again, these aren't formatted very well, so we'll go ahead and use the break tag to kind of separate these out a little bit. So we'll add in a few breaks here. And when we switch back and refresh, you can see that that formatting is looking much nicer. You can also add labels implicitly without using the for attribute. To do that, you just need to wrap the element in the label. And we'll do that with our checkboxes here. So we'll put an opening label tag there, and we'll put our closing label just before the break there. And the text that will be used for our label is already there. So we'll just go ahead and add these labels for the rest of our checkboxes. And we'll copy and paste here just to make this a little bit faster. And now when we save and switch back to the browser and refresh, it doesn't look like anything's changed, but now when we click on our checkbox labels, the checkboxes will be checked, just like that. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for our radio buttons. So again, we'll just wrap these in label tags. And when we switch back to the browser and refresh the page, once again, it doesn't look like anything has changed, but when we do click on these labels, the radio buttons will be selected. We can bring further organization to our forms by grouping various fields together. To do this, we'll wrap our form elements in the field set tag. So these first two questions are kind of personal information, so we'll wrap those together first. Scroll up to the top here, and we'll use the field set element, and we'll close it just like that. And then we'll indent these a little bit for better formatting. And when we switch over to the browser and refresh, you can see that they're now grouped together in a box. We'll do the same thing with the rest of these questions. We'll go ahead and just wrap these in a field set. And we'll put our closing field set at the end. And then we'll indent everything that's wrapped inside of the field set. There we go. Now we have these two boxes. It would be nice if we could add some labels to them, and we can do just that using the legend element. So let's go ahead and add that in. Right after our field set, we'll go ahead and type legend. We'll close the tag there, and we'll say that this one is for personal information. And we'll do the same thing for this field set. And we'll call this one favorite fruits. And when we switch back to the browser and refresh, you can see that we now have these legend tags labeling our field sets. And that's pretty much it. Now, you'll notice that our headline tags are much larger than our labels, and there are still some spacing issues. However, adjusting the aesthetics is best left to CSS, and improving the look of a form is pretty easy when you have good semantic markup. That about wraps things up for labels. Remember, a well-organized form is an important part of a great user experience.